John, what do you think are the three biggest frustrations of a business with 10, 20 people in it turning over £1 million a year?
I think for the bigger ones, probably, yeah. I mean, the number one's got to be talent. So if I think about what do people talk about, complain about, question about, it's how do I find the right people?
It's priceless, because if you haven't got the right people, nothing happens.
Right. So how do I find the right people? Where are they? How do I attract them into my business? How do I know that when I'm recruiting, I'm actually spotting those people? How, they don't leave out the side door and I think someone else was better, but in fact they turned out to be rubbish. Heard that quite a few times. And then when I have got them, how do I keep them? Stop someone else nicking them off me. And then I guess the last and the most important one is how do I develop those people for the future so that they grow with me and they grow with the business.
So how do you get the talent in if that's the first problem or the first issue?
Well, I think a lot of businesses see it as a recruitment challenge and actually it's a marketing challenge.
Really?
Yeah.
But marketing is designed to get more sales.
That's right. But what are you doing in recruitment if you're not selling your business to a potential employee? And that's where most people get it wrong. So to start with, how do you market yourself to your target market, those future employees? So what work have most people done to really define, in this case, their employee avatar? Who is that person that represents the ideal person they're looking for? And then where do you find them? Well, what does that person do in their spare time? Where are they likely to be working now?
Well, surely it's just a case of putting an advert on one of these job websites, isn't it?
It could be. So if you were someone recognised with a great brand, top 100 places to work for, that kind of thing, that might well be all you needed to do. As a small business, though, where you're not so likely to be known, then it'd be more a question of who in your network knows that you're recruiting.
I mean, could it be fair to say that you should actually be recruiting before you need to recruit?
Yeah. A lot of people have recruitment ads running every month, and they're just sifting through who's worth talking to.
So they haven't even got a job?
No. And they're just looking for the right people. And most of those CVs are going in the bin, but every now and again, let's get them in.
But I'm talking like sales director that you're going to be paying 80, 90 grand a year.
Yeah.
You're going to be winding a lot of people up, aren't you, if you just put adverts in?
No, because they're conversations. And okay, in the very big companies, there's always career paths. So in your particular division, you may lose a key member of your top team to another division. The corporate generally is pretty excited that you're developing people to see the rest of the organisation. So you almost need to be aware of who's becoming available as well as who is available.
Okay, so now you've got that person, how do you retain them?
Well, then this becomes about the them, it becomes about the plural, not the singular. And a lot of business owners, I guess the fundamental mistake is the business tends to revolve around a person and their likes and dislikes. And really, if you're going to grow value, so you're going to grow the business and the value of the business, you almost need to take your personal likes and dislikes out of the equation. Because ultimately, if you're growing to sell, it's not going to be your business anyway. It's going to be the money that you make as a result of it.
But that's you as a person. What about the person you're recruiting? Do you think that's as important?
Sorry, didn't understand the question there.
No, I don't know how I answered that. Yeah, but you were talking about recruiting people, weren't you?
Yes. But then you get those people on board, you have to retain them, right?
Yes.
So the first thing you normally find is I've got A players and I've got B players. My A players I want to retain, my B players I don't. And I think one of the biggest challenges that business owners have is they keep hold of their B players too long. They either don't want to be nasty and let the person go, they're worried about the impact on that person's life, they're worried about will I actually be able to replace them if I look, and all those doubts and fears. So they end up putting up with that person. And this is where we get an example of boiled frog syndrome.
Right.
Okay. So boiled frog, if you drop a frog into boiling water, it will hop out. I've never tried it, but apparently that's what happens. If you put the frog into cold water and gradually turn the heat up, eventually what happens is you boil the frog because it's unaware of the temperature change. We, as the business owners, we're that frog getting boiled because our business has degraded slowly over time. If you thought about the level of performance you had and then matched that B player, they just wouldn't fit. But back then, when you were smaller, things were different. There was a sort of a fit, and then you outgrew them.
Do you think there's a lot of business owners out there that get very sentimental about their stuff?
I wouldn't say sentimental, Christopher, but I do think there's a greater degree of emotional attachment than maybe the employee feels. I've known of examples where an employer will approach me privately and want to talk about things, and then we realise that actually they're trying to work out how to tell the boss they want to move on. And the boss is thinking, I don't want to hurt their feelings by letting them go. I think, actually, if you two would just talk to each other, this would be a lot easier.
It comes down to good communication, but
Yeah.
that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is.
So you've got recruitment and we've got retaining. What's the third element?
Development. So a lot of business owners, one guy famously said to me, do you know what, Jen? He said, every day I'm running the biggest business I've ever run. And I was thinking about it for a second, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course you are if you're growing your business.
So the three elements are getting them in,
Yeah.
retaining them, and then the third is development.
Development, yeah.
What's all that about, John?
So the business develops. We talked about the owner sort of running the biggest business they've ever run every single day, because as it grows, of course, it's getting bigger and bigger. And the problem is that you have to bring the people with you, otherwise the business and you as the owner will outgrow them. Typically, your A players will want to grow with the business. They'll be pushing it forward. The B players are likely to be holding it back because you're taking them out of their comfort zone. So when we're talking about developing people, you've got the money in your wallet in the company bank account, and you're trying to work out which players to invest in for the future. Who am I going to take on training? Who am I going to get coached? Who am I going to send on a technical course?
Because if you get it wrong, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Right. At senior level, easily in millions. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you've got a £10 million pound turnover business. You recruit a sales director, got a great track record in the industry, gets into your company and absolutely dies a death. And you think, how could I have got that so wrong? And then when you look back, you go into that old company and say, well, how was Fred? Well, actually, he had all these hot shots underneath him. They were actually the ones really producing the results. He was just grandfathering the whole thing. He never actually grew our sales, really, and we were quite happy to let him go. And you think, oh my goodness, I've just hired an absolute cruising B player who hasn't got it within him to drive this £10 million business because he needed to be in, say, 20 or 30 where he had everybody doing that for him. So you've got to be really careful that you attract the right person, because if you don't, you imagine your sales dip $1 million, it's seriously expensive when you hire the wrong person.
So what are the solutions for these MDs of these £1 million, £2 million turnover businesses to ensure that they get the right sort of talent? Because they can't afford an HR person. What advice could you give them?
Well, funnily enough, I've had actually clients who will go and get a per diem interviewing specialist to support them. Some of them ask me to help them. Sometimes we've got our candidate profile. We're trying to check the CVs against the candidate profile, number one. Secondly, make sure that the CV actually adds up. Which category of the library is it going to be in? Is it in fiction bestsellers or is it a work of non-fiction? Well, guess what? Most of them are fiction bestsellers.
Yes.
You've just got to work out where the fiction is.
What you're saying is look at the CVs and actually make sure it stacks up?
Yeah.
I've never heard of someone actually co-interviewing.
Yeah, well, you can do both. You can do a two-person interview, and you can do the old good cop, bad cop. The other one is get candidates to interview each other. Now that's the real, what? So if you look at our 4-hour recruitment process, there's some group work. So when I said to you earlier about marketing, so the first part of your open evening would be the marketing pitch, i.e., guys, this is why you want to work for us. Step 2 would then be some kind of group exercise where you watch them working with each other. And you very quickly...
What, this is for 80 grand a year jobs?
Yeah, and you very quickly pick out your A players and your B players. You can see who's pretending...
Do you think they'd really want to go to that?
No.
But then surely it's self-selecting if they say it's beyond me or...
Yeah, or they're frightened off, yeah, or I'll be found out, or any of the other negatives, gone. Very rarely will people actually put it together. Number one problem, they can't get the number of candidates. Yeah.
Wow.
But you can, if you're really, this is more advanced, but it's a bit disingenuous, you can actually hire people, actors, by the day to sit in those kind of events with your candidates to flesh it out. And you can give them a role to play. Christopher, your role, you're playing Attila the Hun today in this interview process. John, you're going to be, Tommy Cooper or whatever it is. Play the fool, yeah? And then you watch how these people deal with these difficult characters. And it's all part of the test.
I'm genuinely gobsmacked.
Are you?
Yeah, that there are... that you can employ people to be actors. You can employ people to sit in on interviews.
Do you want a quick laugh, right?
Go on.
You know how old I am. I don't have to tell everybody else, right? So I must have been 16 years old, and my dad worked for Shell Research, and the HR department asked if some of us would help them developing their managers. And we all had to go in and be interviewed. And we had to be these different people. So what was my challenge? You'll never guess what they made me wear to this interview to challenge the interviewer. I had to wear lipstick.
Bet that through them.
So this is a boy, man, age 6. So we're talking many years ago, going into the interview in lipstick and keeping a straight face to watch how the interviewer reacted to my presence in the room.
If there's any MDs out there, you and lipstick, no. Would you feel happy anyone just picking the phone up to you, just picking your brains on and fleshing that out a little bit more?
Sure. I mean, there are plenty of resources out there, Chris. But yeah, sure. And it's a straightforward process, but it's not an easy process. So the clients that are making this work are the ones that actually structure it from start to finish.
I mean, let's be honest, spending 5 or 10 grand on getting the right person, people spend that sort of money on a recruitment agent. You could do that by actually having good interview processes.
Yeah, yes, you could. I mean, there's also a bit about saving time sifting CVs. So one of the reasons people would use an agency is because they don't want to waste time sifting the CVs. So that's the likely reason why you might pull in an outsider. But if you've got really clear criteria, you can hire a temp to do that. And it will cost you less than 100 quid. So there's lots of ways to deal with the challenge, provided you're prepared to think innovatively about it.
Good stuff, John. Thank you very much.
Christopher,
Cheers,
pleasure.
mate.